Okay, I have knitted my heel flap. So this is Rose City Rollers. That means I've got a very short cuff. These are little booties, and it's got a rolled edge here. I did my rolled edge in a contrasting yarn. There's here. So that's the yarn I used for my cuff, and I switched to a more tonal yarn for my heel flap and the rest of the foot. I have my instep stitches hanging out on one of my bent DPNs, right? So there's 32 stitches here. I work the heel flap on 32 stitches, and this is just your basic slip knit heel flap, and then a slip purl all the way across. So slip one, knit one, slip one, knit one all the way across on this side, and then slip one and then purl all the way across. So this is like a corrugated rib, and it makes for a nice dense heel and wears well. So I'm going to do the last row of my heel flap. Basically, I like my heel flaps to be just under square. So, and what I mean by that is if I take these stitches and line them up with their rows, you know, I should be able to just almost make a square, just almost, right? If I would have done two more sets of the knit slip and the purl, I would definitely be able to hang that, have those line up, and for the whole thing to be square. I do like that for maybe taller socks, but for this little booty, it's good for the heel to be just a little bit shallow, but not too much. Okay, so again, I have half my stitches here. I'm going to be slipping and then knitting all the way across. And this is basically how I knit my heel, and this is the last row, as I said. 32 stitches, half my stitches on a 64 stitch sock. So just get through this, and now you can watch me knit with these bent DPNs, how I hold them. Skip that one, knit, slip, and knit the last stitch, right? And then I'm going to turn, and now I'm going to start my heel short rows. Now, a lot of people start their heel short rows on the front side. I like to start on the purl side, because then when you're done, you actually end up on this side, and you're ready to pick up for the gusset. If you start on the knit side, you end up here, and you have to slip and knit across to get to the part where you're going to be picking up the gussets, and it makes this edge just slightly longer because you have more stitches to pick up along this gusset, and I kind of like being ready at the end of my short rows to just go for it. So that's why I like to go ahead and knit the slip and start with the short rows on the purl section. So I'm going to slip that stitch, and I'm going to purl 18 stitches. Okay, so let's just make sure that that's 18. 2. Okay, so 18. So again, 32 stitches. I'm purling 18, and then I'm going to purl these two stitches together purl 1 stitch and turn. So there I am. And then I'm going to continue my short, so that was my first short row. I'm going to continue my short row here. I'm going to slip this, and I'm going to knit 7 stitches. And here's my turn. Here's a slip, slip, knit. Knit 1 and turn for my short row. You can see my heel building up here. Slip this stitch, and I'm going to purl to the gap. So here's the gap, that's where I turned. I'm going to purl those 2 together to close up the gap, purl 1 and turn. And I'm always slipping the first stitch after I turn. So I'm slipping this one, and I'm going to knit to the gap. So the only numbers that I really had to remember were 18 and 7. And I don't, after this, I don't need to count. And again, this is for a 64 stitch heel. So I knit to the gap, slip, slip, knit those 2 together, knit 1 and turn. So I'm going to continue this way until I get to the edges, and then I'm going to be picking up the gussets, and I'll show you how I load up the needles for that next step.